Be me. Arshaba, Senior Marketing Manager at Sustainable Fashion Brand in Melbourne with 175 employees, creating eco-friendly clothing lines, ethical supply chain initiatives, and conscious consumer education programs for Australian and Southeast Asian markets. Trying to revolutionize fast fashion industry, have male best friend for 6 years. He's 29. Works as software engineer at tech company, developing mobile applications and enterprise software solutions, met through mutual friends at university party and became incredibly close, almost immediately over shared interests. No romantic partner myself, focused intensely on career advancement and personal growth, valued independence deeply and wasn't looking for a relationship that would complicate my carefully structured life or require emotional compromises I wasn't ready to make. Best friend had been constant, supportive presence in my life since day we met. Always available when I needed someone to talk to about anything. Helped me move apartments 3 times without complaint. Celebrated every promotion and professional success with genuine enthusiasm. He was thoughtful and kind in ways most men I dated weren't. Remembered small details about my preferences like favorite coffee order and preferred brands. Would bring me exact coffee I liked without being asked. Checked in when he knew I had particularly stressful work days. Made me laugh when I was overwhelmed with work pressure. Our friendship was genuinely one of most important relationships in my life. Felt completely comfortable and safe with him in ways I didn't with other people in my social circle. Could be totally myself without performance or pretense or worry about judgment. Had noticed over the years that he seemed interested in more than friendship based on certain behaviors. Comments, and the way he looked at me sometimes when he thought I wasn't paying attention, would sometimes make comments about us being really good together or hypothetically ask if I'd ever thought about us dating or being more than friends. Would get slightly awkward and quiet when I'd mention going on dates with other men. Wouldn't ask follow-up questions the way he did about other topics. Would look at me sometimes with expression that seemed like much more than friendship. Kind of longing look that made me slightly uncomfortable. Always made himself immediately available when I needed anything, regardless of his own schedule. Plans. Or personal commitments. Dropping everything to help me, but I'd never been attracted to him romantically or physically in any way. Saw him purely as friend, and valued that platonic friendship too much to risk it with romantic complications that might ruin everything. Had told him multiple times over the years, when he'd hint at wanting something more, that I valued our friendship immensely and didn't want to ruin perfect friendship by trying to date. That he was too important to me as friend to risk losing him entirely if romance didn't work out the way it often didn't in my experience. That I genuinely needed him as friend and support system and didn't see him romantically at all. That attraction just wasn't there for me. Each time I'd said these things, he'd seem disappointed and hurt, but would accept my boundary, and we continued friendship like nothing had happened. Posted occasionally on social media about how important and valuable male-female friendships were, and how women weren't obligated to date men just because those men were nice to them or did friendly things. Shared content regularly about friendzone not being real concept, that men who claimed to be friendzone were actually just upset that women exercised their fundamental right to choose their own romantic partners freely. That women could genuinely value men as friends without owing them romantic consideration just because friendship existed. Got supportive comments from followers agreeing enthusiastically that friendship was inherently valuable, and men needed to accept women's choices without resentment or entitlement. Felt validated that my perspective on maintaining clear friendship boundaries was completely aligned with feminist principles about women's autonomy and right to choose. 7 years into friendship. To notice, best friend had been noticeably less available than usual over past few months, in ways that seemed unusual for our normal pattern. Wasn't responding to texts as quickly as he normally did. Sometimes taking hours when he usually responded within minutes. Declined several invitations to hang out, saying he was busy with work or other vague commitments. Hadn't initiated any of our usual weekly coffee meetings or regular movie nights that had been standing tradition for years. When we did see each other, he seemed slightly distracted and emotionally distant in ways that felt uncomfortable and unfamiliar. Asked directly if everything was okay and if I'd done something specific to upset him or hurt his feelings. He said everything was fine. Just busy with work projects and other things going on in his life. Figured he was going through something personal and would talk about it when he was ready. Didn't push because I believed in respecting his space and boundaries. 3 months into his increased distance and withdrawal, saw on social media that he'd posted photo with woman I didn't recognize at all. Caption said something casual about trying new restaurant downtown that we'd talked about going to together. Felt weird, uncomfortable feeling in stomach seeing photo, but immediately dismissed it as just being surprised he hadn't mentioned dating anyone to me. Week later, he posted another photo, with same woman at beach, looking happy and comfortable together. Caption mentioned enjoying beautiful autumn day and exploring new places. Comments from his friends and family were saying things like cute couple and so happy for you both and she's a keeper. Felt increasingly uncomfortable, anxious feeling, but told myself firmly I was being ridiculous and possessive. We were just friends, like I'd always insisted. He was completely allowed to date whoever he wanted. I should be genuinely happy for him finding someone. 2 weeks after that, he posted photo that clearly indicated serious relationship developing. Caption said 3 months with this amazing person who makes me incredibly happy. Photos showed them looking very happy and couple-like, with his arm around her. Felt sudden, intense anxiety and upset that I couldn't quite understand or name. Realized with shock he'd been dating someone seriously for 3 months and hadn't told me anything about it at all. We'd been best friends for 7 years, sharing everything. And he'd completely hidden entire relationship from me deliberately, texted him immediately. Feeling panicked, saw your post. You're dating someone seriously, why didn't you tell me this was happening? He responded several hours later, which was extremely unusual for our normal communication pattern. Yeah. I've been seeing Emma for a few months now. Just wanted to keep it private initially, while we figured things out. His response felt distant, and unlike our usual warm, open communication style, asked if we could meet up in person to talk about what was happening. He said he was busy that week with work and Emma, but maybe next week if schedule allowed. This was completely unlike him. He'd always made time for me immediately. No matter what else was happening in his life, spent entire week feeling increasingly anxious and upset about situation. Couldn't focus properly on work. Realized I was checking his social media constantly, multiple times per day, to see if he posted anything more about girlfriend. Felt possessive, jealous feelings I didn't want to acknowledge or examine too closely. Week later, we finally met for coffee. First time seeing him in person since finding out about girlfriend's existence. He seemed noticeably different, more reserved and boundary than I'd ever experienced with him. Asked about girlfriend and how relationships started and developed. He shared basic surface information, but without his usual openness and detail about his life. Said he'd met her through mutual friends at work event. They'd connected quickly over shared interests. Things were going really well, and he was happy. Asked directly why he hadn't told me about her or mentioned he was dating anyone. He looked uncomfortable and shifted in seat. I wasn't deliberately hiding it from you specifically. Just wanted to see if relationship would actually develop before talking about it with people. Plus, I honestly figured you wouldn't be particularly interested in my dating life anyway. That comment stung in a way I didn't expect at all. Of course I'm interested. You're my best friend. I tell you about everyone I date in detail. He looked at me with expression I couldn't quite read. Something sad and resigned. Yeah. You definitely do tell me about everyone you date. In very extensive detail about every date and every clear that I'm just your friend and nothing more. His tone had slight bitter edge I'd never heard from him before. Felt immediately defensive. I thought you'd accepted that we were just friends. We've talked about this multiple times over the years, clearly. He nodded slowly. I did accept it eventually. That's exactly why I started dating Emma. I needed to finally move on from hoping you'd someday change your mind about me. His words hit me with unexpected over following weeks and months. Best friend became increasingly distant in all ways. Our usual constant daily communication dwindled to occasional brief exchanges. He stopped initiating any hangouts or suggesting we spend time together. When I'd suggest meeting up, he'd often say he had plans with Emma or was busy. Our 7-year established pattern of regular close contact was completely disrupted and falling apart. Started feeling desperately anxious about losing him and our friendship. Would text him more frequently, trying to maintain connection and closeness. He'd respond, but briefly and without his usual warmth. Engagement and genuine interest. Felt like I was watching my most important friendship disappear before my eyes. Posted vaguely on social media about how friends sometimes change dramatically when they got into relationships. About how disappointing it was when people completely abandoned important long-term friendships for new romantic partners. Got sympathetic comments agreeing, but also some that made me genuinely uncomfortable. If he was really your true friend, he wouldn't disappear completely for a girlfriend. Sounds like he was only friends with you because he wanted more and couldn't handle just friendship. Men who can't handle being platonic friends were never really genuine friends to begin with, but also got challenging comments that forced uncomfortable reflection. Did you expect him to stay single forever, waiting around for you? He's allowed to prioritize romantic relationship over friendship. Maybe give him actual space to build his relationship without guilt. 2 months into best friend, having girlfriend, he posted photo of them at annual film festival event. Annual event I would have normally attended with him as tradition. He'd always gotten 2 tickets. And we'd made whole day of it every single year for 6 years. This year he'd taken Emma instead without even mentioning film festival to me at all. Felt crushing hurt and sense of rejection and replacement. Texted him immediately. Film festival was this weekend. We always go together. It's our tradition. He responded many hours later. Oh, yeah. I took Emma instead. Figured you'd understand I'd want to share experiences like that with my girlfriend now. His response felt dismissive of our 6-year tradition and its importance. Replied, feeling hurt. You could have at least told me you weren't going with me this year. I would have made other plans or gotten my own ticket. He didn't respond for full day. Then sent brief message, you're right. I should have mentioned it. Sorry about that. The apology felt perfunctory and distant. Not like him at all. 3 months into his relationship, invited best friend to my birthday dinner with group of friends like every single year. He responded saying he'd try to make it, but wasn't sure about his schedule yet. This was completely unlike him. He'd never missed my birthday in 7 years. Day of dinner, he texted, saying he couldn't make it after all. Had important plans with Emma's family he couldn't miss. Felt absolutely devastated that he'd chosen girlfriend's family event over my birthday celebration. Birthday dinner felt completely wrong and empty without him there, after 7 years of him being central part of all celebrations. Friends noticed his obvious absence, and several asked where he was. Had to explain awkwardly he couldn't make it because of girlfriend and her family. One friend said gently with concerned expression, "That must be really hard for you. You two have been so incredibly close for so long." Realized tears were forming and had to excuse myself to bathroom. Sat in bathroom stall, crying and trying desperately to understand why I was so upset about this. He was completely allowed to have girlfriend and prioritize her and her family. We were just friends, like I'd always firmly insisted to him and everyone, so why did it feel like I was losing something completely irreplaceable and precious? 4 months into his relationship, barely hearing from best friend at all anymore. Would go entire weeks without any contact, unless I initiated it. When we did communicate, it was surface level and brief. Nothing deep. He completely stopped sharing any details about his life with me. Stopped asking about mine beyond polite cursory questions. The deep emotional intimacy we'd shared for 7 years was completely gone. Started feeling increasingly desperate and panicked about situation. Spiraling, suggested firmly we meet for coffee to talk seriously about our friendship. He agreed, somewhat reluctantly. And we met at cafe. Brought up directly that our friendship had changed dramatically, and it was hurting me. We barely talk anymore at all. I feel like I'm losing my best friend. Is this all because of Emma? Did she ask you to distance yourself from me? He looked tired and somewhat sad. Emma hasn't asked me to change our friendship at all. She's actually been really understanding about us. I'm choosing to create more distance deliberately. Asked why he would possibly choose that after 7 years of incredibly close friendship, he was quiet for a very long moment before responding carefully. Because being your best friend while you actively date other people has been genuinely painful for me. I've spent 7 years being completely emotionally available to you whenever you needed anything. Listening to you talk in detail about dates and relationships with other men, being there instantly whenever you needed emotional support or practical help. While you made abundantly clear repeatedly you'd never seen me as more than convenient friend, that dynamic is not sustainable for me anymore. I can't keep doing it. His honesty hit incredibly hard, but I genuinely value our friendship so much. You're one of the most important people in my entire life. He nodded sadly with pain expression. And you're extremely important to me, too. You always have been, but I can't keep being the friend who's always immediately available, who drops absolutely everything when you need something, who puts your emotional needs consistently ahead of mine, while you see me as safe, comfortable friend, and nothing more. I need to invest my emotional energy in relationship where someone actually wants me romantically, where I'm someone's first choice and priority, not their backup emotional support system. Started to protest, but he continued firmly. You've told me clearly for 7 years you don't see me that way romantically. I finally believe you and accept it. And I'm moving on with my life. That means our friendship has to fundamentally change. I can't be as available and emotionally intimate with you while building serious romantic relationship with someone else. That's not fair to Emma. And it's not healthy for me either. 5 months into best friends relationship. He posted photo announcing engagement. Emma was wearing obvious engagement ring. They both looked incredibly happy together. Caption talked about finding right person and feeling ready for next. Felt like I'd been physically punched hard in stomach. Engaged after only 5 months of dating someone he'd never even mentioned considering marriage or being at that stage. We'd had exactly one awkward, uncomfortable coffee conversation since my birthday. Felt completely excluded from major life decision and milestone. Also felt strange. Intense jealousy and sense of profound loss. Stared at photo for very long time. Analyzing her appearance. Comparing myself to her. She was conventionally pretty and looked genuinely happy. And was clearly getting something from him I'd never wanted. Except now, looking at engagement photo, I felt like maybe I actually had wanted it, and just hadn't realized until too late. Comments on post were universally congratulatory and excited. His family and friends all celebrating enthusiastically. I couldn't bring myself to comment publicly where everyone could see. Sent private message instead. Congratulations on your engagement. This is really big news. Wish you told me privately before posting publicly to everyone. He responded several hours later very briefly. Thanks for congratulations. It was kind of spontaneous decision. His response had absolutely none of the warmth or closeness we'd once naturally shared. Sat alone in apartment, feeling overwhelming sense of loss and deep confusion. Started questioning everything about past 7 years of friendship. Had I actually just seen him as platonic friend all this time, or had I deliberately kept him in friend zone because it was comfortable and safe and served my needs because I got all emotional benefits of intimate relationship without vulnerability and risk of actual romance? Because I liked having someone who was always there for me without having to fully commit or reciprocate feelings. 6 months into his relationship, and 2 weeks after engagement announcement, ran into best friend and Emma randomly at local cafe. They were laughing together comfortably, clearly happy and at ease with each other. Saw me, and best friend's expression immediately shifted to something guarded and distant. "Hey, this is Emma, my fiancée." Emma was friendly and genuinely warm toward me. "So nice to finally meet you. I've heard quite a lot about you from him." Her natural friendliness somehow made me feel even worse. We made awkward, stilted small talk for a few uncomfortable minutes. Best friend was polite, but noticeably distant with me in a way that was completely unlike years of easy, comfortable, natural friendship. They left after brief conversation, saying they had dinner reservation, watched them walk away together, holding hands naturally, felt crushing realization that he'd completely moved on and built entirely new life that didn't include me at all. 7 months into his relationship, posted on social media about how important it was for women to maintain firm boundaries in friendships with men, about not owing men romantic attention or relationships just because they were kind and supportive as friends, about having fundamental right to keep relationships platonic even if man wanted more than friendship. But writing it felt increasingly hollow because I was realizing I'd maybe actually taken advantage of his feelings, had kept him emotionally close, knowing full well he wanted more than friendship, had accepted all his emotional support and constant availability freely, while making repeatedly clear he'd never be a romantic option for me, got some supportive comments validating my perspective, but also increasingly critical ones. "Sounds like you're just upset your convenient backup plan found someone else. You kept him around for attention and emotional support while dating other people. This is exactly why men and women can't actually be genuine friends." Defensive response tried to argue I genuinely valued friendship platonically, not used him, but privately was seriously questioning my own motivations and behavior 8 months into his relationship. Best friend's sister reached out to me directly. She and I had become genuinely friendly over the years. Through him, asked if we could meet for coffee to talk about something. She was direct and honest once we sat down. "My brother is getting married next month. Small, intimate ceremony. Just family and very close friends. He's not planning to invite you to wedding." Felt crushing hurt hearing this stated so plainly. We were best friends for 7 years. "I'm not even invited to his wedding at all." She looked sympathetic, but also firm. "You need to understand something important. My brother was genuinely in love with you for years. He kept hoping you'd eventually see him differently. Finally accepted completely you never would. Met Emma, and found someone who actually wants to be with him romantically. He's genuinely happy now and building real life with her, but he can't have you at wedding as constant reminder of 7 years he spent hoping and waiting. It wouldn't be fair to Emma, either, to have you there." Started to protest that we could surely maintain platonic friendship. She interrupted gently, but firmly, "You weren't just friends. Though, not from his perspective. Not really. Not emotionally. He gave you emotional intimacy and support of romantic relationship, while you treated him like safe, convenient friend who was always available. That's not sustainable or healthy dynamic. He needs to move on completely and fully. That means significant distance from you." Her words were extremely hard to hear, but felt painfully accurate. 9 months into his relationship and week before his wedding, sent best friend, long detailed message, acknowledged that I'd maybe actually taken advantage of his feelings over the years, that I'd accepted all his emotional support and availability while keeping him firmly in friend zone, that I was genuinely sorry for any hurt I'd caused him, that I missed our friendship desperately and it was a huge hole in my life, that I wish things could somehow go back to how they were before. He responded several days later with short, measured message. "I genuinely appreciate the apology, but I don't want things to go back to how they were. That dynamic wasn't healthy for me at all. I'm happy now with Emma in ways I've never been. We can be politely friendly when we run into each other, but I can't be your best friend anymore. I need you to respect that boundary. Please don't contact me again." His final clear boundary felt like heavy doors slamming shut permanently. Day of his wedding that I wasn't invited to. Saw photos flooding social media. He looked genuinely happy in ways I'd honestly never seen in 7 years. Emma looked beautiful and radiant. Their families and friends celebrating joyfully around them. I sat alone scrolling through photos, feeling complete total exclusion. Realized I'd lost him entirely because I'd kept him close without actually wanting him fully. Posted vague, sad content about losing important friendship. Got some sympathetic responses, but also increasingly challenging critical ones. You can't keep someone in friend zone forever and expect them to stay available. He chose someone who actually wanted him back romantically. This is natural consequence of stringing someone along emotionally for years. Year after he started dating Emma, they posted pregnancy announcement, moving forward rapidly with whole life together, getting everything he'd probably wanted years ago with me. With someone who actually wanted all of it with him, felt complex. Overwhelming mix of emotions, including some genuine happiness for him, but also deep grief and regret about what I'd lost. Started therapy to seriously process what had happened. Therapist asked difficult probing questions about my motivations over the years. Did you genuinely just see him as platonic friend, or did you enjoy having someone devoted to you emotionally? Had to admit uncomfortably it was probably mixture of both. I had valued friendship genuinely and cared about him, but also had definitely gotten comfortable having someone always immediately available, someone who made me feel valued and important and supported, without having to be vulnerable in actual romantic relationship. Therapist helped me see clear pattern in my behavior. You kept him emotionally close enough to meet your needs, but far enough away to avoid romantic vulnerability and risk. That gave you many benefits of relationship without actual risk. But it wasn't fair to him at all. He was investing emotionally in what he hoped would become romance, while you were making clear it never would. Eventually, he realized he needed to invest elsewhere. 18 months after he started dating Emma, ran into him at mutual friend's party. First time seeing him in person since very brief cafe encounter. He was there with Emma, who was visibly pregnant with their first child. They looked happy and settled together. Approached carefully to say hello politely. He was polite, but created very clear boundary. We chatted briefly about surface topics only. He didn't ask about my life in any depth, didn't engage beyond basic pleasantries. Emma was friendly, but clearly aware of our history. They left early, saying Emma needed rest. Watched them leave together, building family and future, while I stood alone at party, 2 years after losing best friend to his girlfriend who became wife, writing long reflection about experience, trying to understand what had actually happened and my role in it. Realized I genuinely believed I was being honest and clear about boundaries. That keeping friendship platonic while he wanted more was my right. That I didn't owe him romance just because he was a good friend. All of that was technically true from feminist perspective. But I'd also completely failed to consider his experience, had accepted years of emotional intimacy and support, had let him be there for every single difficult moment, had relied on him being available whenever I needed anything. While dating other people and making clear he wasn't a romantic option, that had been painful for him in ways I'd minimized because it served my needs to keep him close. Posted honest reflection on social media about how I'd lost my best friend when he found girlfriend, about how I'd taken his friendship for granted, about how I'd maybe used his feelings to get emotional support without reciprocating romantically, about how I was learning that friend zone could be real in sense that keeping someone close who wants more isn't always kind. Got very mixed, passionate responses. Some people supportive of my reflection and growth, others angry, saying I'd strung him along for years. Some women shared they'd done similar things and regretted it. Some men shared being on his side and how painful it was. 3 years after he started dating Emma, saw announcement they'd had second child. His social media showed full, complete, happy family life. Photos of him with Emma and 2 beautiful children. Captions about feeling blessed and complete. Comments from friends and family celebrating their growing family. No longer felt sharp, jealous pain when seeing his posts. Just dull, persistent ache of permanent loss. We'd see each other occasionally at mutual friends' events, would exchange polite greetings, but emotional intimacy and deep friendship was completely gone forever. He'd fully moved on and built life that didn't include me. 4 years after losing best friend, former mutual friend brought up situation directly. Do you still think about him? Admitted I did regularly. That I missed friendship we'd happy with Emma. They're genuinely great together. But he said explicitly he can't be friends with you again. That those 7 years were too painful. That he gave you everything and got kept at distance. That he doesn't want to go back to that dynamic. Her words confirmed what I'd already understood. That friendship was permanently over because of how I'd handled it. 5 years after he started dating Emma, started dating someone seriously myself. First serious relationship I'd had in years. Found myself constantly comparing my new relationship to friendship I'd had with best friend. Realized my new partner didn't know me as deeply. Didn't anticipate my needs the way best friend had. Wasn't as emotionally available or supportive. Started understanding what I'd actually lost. The person who'd known me best and been most attuned to me. Who I'd kept at arm's length while taking advantage of his care. 6 years after losing best friend. Saw he'd been promoted to senior position at his company. Posted about achievement with photo of Emma and kids celebrating. Caption thanked Emma for her support and partnership. Seeing him thrive and build successful life without me was both good and painful. Good because he deserved happiness. Painful because I'd lost access to being part of his life. 7 years after he started dating Emma. Total of 14 years since we'd first become friends. Saw a photo of them on family vacation. Both looking happy and settled in ways that showed deep partnership. Kids were growing, and they were clearly building strong family. Realized it had been 7 years since our friendship effectively ended. Same length as our original close friendship had lasted. He'd now been with Emma longer than we'd been best friends. That chapter was completely closed. Posted reflection on having lost important friendship years ago. About learning that keeping someone in friend zone while using them for emotional support wasn't ethical. About understanding too late that I'd valued his presence, but not enough to risk romance. About how he'd found someone who actually wanted full relationship with him. About living with regret of taking important person for granted. Got comments from people who related. Women who'd done similar things and lost important people. Men who'd been in his position and had to distance themselves. Discussion about whether opposite-sex friendships could work when one person wanted more. 8 years after best friend got girlfriend and our friendship ended, writing book about experience, titled When Friend Zone Becomes Loss. Learning too late what I had. Detailed complete 7-year friendship. How I kept him close while dating others. How he'd finally moved on. How I'd lost him completely. Lessons about taking people for granted. Book included interviews with people who'd been in similar situations. Women who'd friend-zoned men and lost them. Men who'd been friend-zoned and moved on. Therapists discussing the dynamics. Most importantly, acknowledgement that keeping someone close who wants more while you date others isn't always feminist boundary but sometimes selfish convenience. Current reflection 9 years after best friend got girlfriend and our friendship ended. He's built complete life with Emma and their growing family. Has career success and clear contentment. When we occasionally see each other at mutual friends' events, there's polite distance, no animosity, but also no warmth or closeness. The person who knew me best for 7 years is effectively stranger now. I've learned painful lessons about taking people for granted, about using someone's feelings while keeping them at distance, about how friend zone isn't always feminist boundary but sometimes selfish convenience, that keeping someone close who wants more while you date others isn't always ethical. Most importantly, learned that people who care about you aren't obligated to stay available. That eventual moving on and creating distance is healthy boundary, that I had no right to expect him to remain best friend after years of rejecting him romantically while accepting his emotional labor. Former mutual friend mentioned recently he'd said something about me, that he didn't regret our friendship years, that I'd been important to him, but that he needed to move on completely to be happy, that he couldn't maintain close friendship with someone who'd rejected him while accepting his emotional labor, that Emma had given him what I never could, someone who wanted all of him. 9 years later, he's thriving without me. While I live with understanding that I lost important person by taking him for granted, that's the story of friend-zoning him for years, until he got girlfriend and I completely lost it. 9 years of learning that keeping someone close without wanting them fully eventually means losing them entirely. That people who care about you will eventually choose people who actually want them back. That friend zone isn't always feminist boundary, but sometimes selfish holding pattern. 9 years later, he has everything. Family, career, happiness with partner who chose him, while I have lessons learned too late about valuing people while they're available, not after they've moved on. That's what happened when I kept him in friend zone, until he found someone who actually wanted him, and I lost it completely, learning too late what I'd actually had. 9 years of consequences from taking devotion for granted. That's the complete story of friend zoning for years, until he moved on, and I lost everything. Forever. 10 years after best friend got girlfriend and friendship ended, started consulting with relationship therapist about patterns in my life, realized I'd repeated similar dynamic with other male friends over the years, keeping emotionally close friendships with men who wanted more, accepting their emotional support and availability, while making clear they weren't romantic options. Therapist identified pattern: you create intimate emotional bonds with men who are safe, men who you know want you so you feel desired, but who you don't want romantically, so you maintain control. You get validation and support without vulnerability. That's using people's feelings even if unintentional. Had to acknowledge pattern existed beyond just him, that I'd lost multiple male friendships when they'd finally moved on, that I'd felt similarly hurt and abandoned each time. Without recognizing, I'd created unsustainable dynamic. 11 years after losing best friend, younger cousin asked advice about her situation. She had male best friend who clearly wanted more. She valued friendship, but didn't feel romantic attraction. Asked what she should do, had to give advice based on painful lessons learned. Be honest with yourself about what you're getting from friendship. Are you genuinely just friends? Or are you enjoying having someone devoted to you if he wants more and you definitely don't? Maintaining close, intimate friendship is using his feelings. Either create real distance to let him move on, or accept that he'll eventually distance himself when he finds someone else. Don't be surprised or hurt when he chooses someone who wants him back. She looked thoughtful. So I should end friendship, responded carefully. Not necessarily end it, but shift it. Stop accepting girlfriend-level emotional intimacy if you won't be girlfriend. Stop relying on him being always available. Give him space to invest in finding someone who wants him. Real friendship can exist, but not the way you probably have it now. 12 years after losing best friend, saw his third child announcement. Family of 5 now. Looking completely happy and established. Emma posted about him being amazing father and partner. Comments full of people celebrating their family. Realized 12 years had passed since our friendship ended. More time than friendship had even lasted. He'd built entire adult life without me in it. Former close friend reached out asking if I wanted to be set up with her brother. Mentioned she knew I'd been single for a long time. Politely declined. She pressed gently. You've been single for so long. Are you still hung up on what happened with him? Had to think about answer. I'm not hung up on him romantically, but I learned something that made dating harder. I learned I was comfortable using people's feelings for validation, keeping men close who wanted me because it felt good to be wanted. Without reciprocating or being vulnerable myself, I'm scared I'll do that again. So I've been alone working on it. 13 years after losing best friend. Former mutual friend got married. He and Emma attended wedding with their kids. I was also invited. First time we'd been at same event in years. Saw Emma across room, looking happy and settled. He saw me. Gave polite nod. Turned back to conversation with Emma. No warmth. No recognition of years we'd shared. Just polite acknowledgement of acquaintance. Later in evening, found myself near him at bar. Brief, awkward conversation. How are you? Good. You? Good. Painful small talk between people who'd once known everything about each other. He excused himself quickly to rejoin Emma. Watched him walk away. Feeling profound sense of permanent loss. 14 years after losing best friend. Published essay about experience titled, The Friend Zone from the Other Side. What I Lost by Taking Him for Granted. Detailed, complete story, honestly. Acknowledged my role in creating unsustainable dynamic. Explained how I'd kept him close while dating others. How I'd valued his emotional support without reciprocating romantically. How he'd finally chosen someone who wanted him. How I'd felt abandoned and hurt when he moved on. How I'd learned too late what I'd actually lost. Essay went viral in ways I hadn't expected. Thousands of women commented. Relating to experience? I did exact same thing and lost my best friend. I didn't realize I was using his feelings until he was gone. I thought I was just being clear about boundaries. But I was being selfish. Thousands of men commented from his perspective, this is exactly what happened to me. I spent years being emotional boyfriend without benefits. Finally found someone who actually wanted me. My former friend acted like I'd betrayed her by moving on. Comment section became massive discussion about friend zone dynamics. Whether opposite-sex friendships could work when one person wanted more. Whether women were obligated to date male friends or free to keep boundaries. Whether men were entitled to expect romance or justified in eventually distancing. Therapists weighed in with nuanced perspectives. Both things can be true. Women have right to not date someone. Men have right to distance themselves from unrequited situations. Problem comes when one person maintains intimate friendship, knowing other wants more. That's using someone's feelings, even if unintentional. 15 years after losing best friend. Reached out to him directly. First contact initiated by me in over a decade, sent carefully worded email. I know it's been 15 years since our friendship ended. I've thought a lot about what happened. I understand now that I took advantage of your feelings. I kept you emotionally close because it served my needs. Without considering the pain that caused you, I'm truly sorry for that. I'm not asking to rebuild friendship. Just wanted you to know I understand what I did. And I'm genuinely happy you found Emma and built beautiful life. He responded 2 weeks later. Short message. I appreciate the apology and acknowledgement. Those years were difficult, but they led me to Emma. I don't regret our friendship entirely. You were important to me and taught me what I needed. But I also don't want to reconnect. I've built life that works, and bringing past into it doesn't serve that. I wish you well. His message was kind, but final, clear boundary. That door was permanently closed. 16 years after losing best friend. Saw Emma post about their anniversary, 15 years married. Over 16 years together, total. Longer than our friendship had lasted. Photo showed them looking genuinely happy and partnered. Caption talked about building life together, growing together, choosing each other daily. Comments celebrated their lasting relationship. Realized he'd now spent more of his adult life with her than period when we'd been close. I was increasingly distant memory from his past. While she was his present and future, 17 years after friendship ended. Younger woman at work, asked advice. She had situation with male coworker who was clearly interested. She valued friendship, but didn't feel attraction. He'd started dating someone and was now less available. She felt hurt and abandoned, shared my experience with her. I lost my best friend 17 years ago in similar situation. I kept him close, knowing he wanted more. Accepted all his emotional support while dating others. When he found girlfriend who actually wanted him, I felt betrayed. But really, I'd been the one being unfair to him all along. You have right not to date him. He has right to invest in someone who wants him back. Your hurt feelings are about losing access to his attention, not about losing genuine equal friendship. She looked defensive, but I really value his friendship. Had to be direct. Did you value his friendship enough to support him dating and finding partner? Or did you like having him available and focused on you? She went quiet. I guess I liked having him available. Told her, that's using someone's feelings, even if you didn't mean to. He's choosing healthy boundary by distancing. Let him go. 18 years after losing best friend. Daughter of former colleague mentioned knowing his family. His kids went to her kids' school. She'd met Emma at school events multiple times. Mentioned what lovely person Emma was. How devoted he clearly was to his family. How his kids talked about him being wonderful father. Hearing secondhand about his life felt strange. This complete life he'd built that I knew nothing about, where I was just distant figure from his past he probably rarely thought about. While I still thought about him regularly even after 18 years, 19 years after friendship ended. Went through old photos. Found pictures from our friendship years. Us at various events. Laughing. Clearly close. His expression in many photos showed more than friendship, looking at me with obvious affection and hope, while I looked comfortable and happy, but clearly platonic. Could see the dynamic clearly in retrospect. Him investing emotionally, hoping for more. Me accepting that investment while maintaining distance. Showed photos to therapist. She observed gently. You can see in these photos the imbalance. He's leaning toward you emotionally. You're comfortable? But boundary. That dynamic wasn't sustainable. He eventually had to choose himself. 20 years after best friend got girlfriend, and our friendship ended. Writing final reflection, 2 decades since I'd lost one of most important people in my life, 20 years of living with consequences of taking someone for granted. He'd built complete life in those 20 years. Marriage. 3 children. Successful career. Full adult life that I wasn't part of at all. While I'd spent 20 years learning lessons from losing him, about not using people's feelings, about being honest about motivations, about letting people go who want more than you can give, posted final reflection on anniversary of when he'd started dating Emma, 20 years ago today. I lost my best friend. Because he found girlfriend who actually wanted to be with him, I'd spent 7 years keeping him close, while making clear I'd never date him. Accepting all his emotional support while dating other people. When he finally moved on, I felt abandoned and betrayed. But really, I'd been the one being unfair all along. 20 years later, he's built beautiful life with someone who chose him. While I live with understanding of what I lost, this isn't about pining for him romantically. It's about recognizing I lost important person by taking them for granted, by using their feelings for my benefit without reciprocating. If you have someone in your life who wants more than you can give, either be honest and create distance, or accept they'll eventually choose someone who wants them back. And you won't have right to be hurt about it. 20 years later, I finally understand that. Got thousands of comments, many from people who'd lost friendships in similar ways, many from people on both sides of dynamic, some anger from people who felt I was blaming myself for having boundaries, some validation from people who'd experienced similar loss, but overwhelming theme was recognition. That friend zone dynamics were more complex than simple boundary setting. That keeping someone close who wants more does use their feelings. That eventual distance is healthy. Note abandonnement. Current reflection, 20 years after losing best friend. He's in his late 40s now with teenage children. Full established life with Emma spanning 2 decades. Successful career and stable family. I'm in my late 40s alone. Career. But no family. Several failed relationships where I repeated similar patterns until I finally learned to recognize and stop them. We haven't spoken in 15 years. Probably won't ever speak again. He's moved on completely while I carry lessons learned from losing him. Most importantly, I've learned that keeping someone in friend zone while using their emotional support is harmful. That people who care about you aren't obligated to stay while you date others. That eventual moving on is healthy boundary, not betrayal. That I had no right to feel abandoned when he chose someone who wanted him. 20 years later, he's happy and thriving, while I live with permanent understanding of what I lost by taking him for granted. That's the complete story 20 years later, of friend zoning him for 7 years, until he got girlfriend and I lost everything. 20 years of consequences from using someone's feelings, from keeping someone close without wanting them fully, from expecting him to stay available while I dated others. He went emotionless toward me, built complete life without me. While I learned too late what I'd had,